It's October 10th here in Seoul, and I'm Kim Dami. We begin with these stories making the headlines at this hour, starting with the ASEAN Summit in Laos. South Korea and ASEAN countries are set to upgrade their relations to a comprehensive strategic partnership. President Yoon is also holding the first summit with the new Japanese Prime Minister Shigeru Ishiba on the sidelines. South Korea has been elected to the UN Human Rights Council for the sixth time on Wednesday. The three-year term will allow Seoul to be more vocal about addressing North Korea and other human rights issues. And this year's Nobel Prize in Chemistry went to two scientists at Google DeepMind and an American biochemist who used AI to master the structures of proteins. Celebrating 35 years of their dialogue relations, South Korea and ASEAN are about to elevate their ties to a comprehensive strategic partnership. And President Yoon is holding his first talks with the new Japanese Prime Minister Shigeru Ishiba. Our Kim Do-yeon starts us off.
President Yoon landed in Laos late Wednesday night for the ASEAN Summit, the third and last stop of his overseas trip to Southeast Asia. Upon landing in the capital, Vientiane, the top office also announced 6 confirmed sideline bilaterals during the trip, including a meeting with the new Japanese Prime Minister Shigeru Ishiba. This will be the first time the two leaders meet, just 9 days since Ishiba's election, and comes against the backdrop of a close relationship between Yoon and former Prime Minister Fumio Kishida, which improved bilateral ties after years of frosty relations. An official from the top office met with reporters in Vientiane and explained that it'll be difficult to have an in-depth discussion given that this is a sideline meeting of the ASEAN Summit, but the two leaders will review the course of the bilateral relations over the past 2 years. Other leaders Yoon is set to meet one-on-one on the sideline are from Canada, Australia, Laos, Vietnam, and Thailand. These meetings are also expected to be short and simple and spread across Thursday and Friday. In the meantime, President Yoon's visit comes as South Korea and ASEAN this year marked the 35th anniversary since establishing dialogue relations, and the two sides decided to elevate the relationship to the highest level, a comprehensive strategic partnership. For reference, only 5 out of 11 countries that ASEAN has established dialogues with are comprehensive strategic partners.
The establishment of this comprehensive strategic partnership is expected to serve as a new opportunity to revisit the 35-year history of cooperation between Korea and ASEAN and to explore the comprehensive expansion of Korea-ASEAN cooperation.
As for the specific engagements, Yoon will begin on Thursday with a meeting with the 10-member bloc, then attend a +3 meeting of ASEAN with South Korea, Japan, and China. Finally, on Friday, Yoon will attend the East Asia Summit of 18 Indo-Pacific countries, where he will present Korea's role as a global pivotal state in defending a rules-based regional order and once again share his unification doctrine. It's also notable the top diplomats of the US and Russia will also be at the EAS. Throughout his trip, the president is aiming to strengthen political and security cooperation with ASEAN, as well as trade, investment, and strategic collaborations in high-tech areas. Kim Do-yeon, Arirang News, Vientiane.
Before heading to Laos, President Yoon participated in a distinguished lecture series on Wednesday in Singapore. He emphasized how his vision for Korean unification would benefit the region's prospects for peace. Our Oh Soo-young has more.
A free and open unified Korea would contribute to the greater freedom, peace and prosperity of the Indo-Pacific region. That's according to President Yoon upon his state visit to Singapore, as he took part in the prestigious Singapore Lecture, a lecture series that invites distinguished figures who visit the city-state. The South Korean leader on Wednesday emphasized how Seoul's Indo-Pacific strategy aligns with the objectives of the Association of Southeast Asian Nations to safeguard peace, stability, prosperity, and a rules-based order in the region. He put a particular focus on his August 15th doctrine that envisions a unified South and North Korea as a formula for regional peace, saying the absence of North Korea's nuclear threats would lead to a stronger international non-proliferation regime, and also help substantially reduce illicit trafficking in the region's waters, and ensure a more secure and freer order of navigation.
통일 한반도는 가난과 폭정에 고통받는 2,600만의 북한 주민들에게 그토록 간절히 바라는 자유를 선사하는 축복이 될 것입니다. 더 나아가 큰 자유를 얻게 된 한국은 영내와 국제사회의 자유와 인권을 위해 더 큰 기여를 하게 될 것입니다.
He also said Seoul will continue working closely with the international community to achieve these goals, pledging $100 million in funding over the next 3 years for development cooperation projects that promote democracy in Indo-Pacific countries. The president further said a unified Korea would promote greater economic development and prosperity across the region.
통일 한반도의 실현은 인태 지역의 경제 발전과 번영에도 강력한 추동력을 제공할 것입니다. 개방된 한반도를 연결고리로 태평양, 한반도, 유라시아 대륙을 관통하는 거대한 시장이 열릴 것입니다. 에너지, 물류, 교통, 인프라, 관광에 걸친 활발한 투자와 협력의 수요가 분출할 것입니다.
Asked about concerns surrounding the geopolitical rivalry between Washington and Beijing, and tensions in the South China Sea, Yoon said Seoul will aim to engage constructively with China to jointly promote a norms-based international order at both the regional and global levels.
그래서 저희는 이런 한미 관계뿐만이 아니라 대중 관계에 있어서도 상호 존중과 또 어떤 국제 규범과 원칙에 입각한 그런 공동의 이익 추구라는 차원에서 대중 관계를 지금 만들어가고 있습니다. 아울러서 한미 동맹이 굉장히 안정적이고 튼튼하게 구축이 되어 있기 때문에 미중 간의 이런 갈등 문제에 또는 경쟁 문제에 대한민국의 기업과 어떤 국익이 걸려 있을 때에는 저희들이 양쪽에 다 솔직한 입장을 전달을 해서 문제가 합리적으로 풀릴 수 있도록 노력할 생각입니다.
Noting he'd restored the trilateral summit between Seoul, Tokyo and Beijing earlier this year, Yoon says Seoul will continue to restore dialogue channels at various levels to resolve issues or misunderstandings that may arise in the bilateral relationship with Beijing. The president will participate in an ASEAN +3 meeting with Japanese Prime Minister Shigeru Ishiba and Chinese Premier Li Chang in Laos on Thursday to discuss the 3 East Asian nations' cooperation with the 10-member bloc of Southeast Asian countries. Oh Seong, Arirang News.
So, Southeast Asian leaders, as well as President Yoon Suk-yeol, are in Laos, where security issues are set to take center stage at this year's ASEAN Summit. For more analysis, we're joined by Professor Han Sharol. Welcome back, Professor Sharol.
Thank you, Tommy. Good morning to you.
So, how important is President Yoon's attendance at this year's ASEAN Summit? Why so timely?
Oh, it's certainly very important. There are always key economic and geopolitical questions discussed at the summit. Plus, as your report just pointed out, this is a chance not only for President Yoon and the South Korean government to connect with representatives from all across Southeast Asia from their 10-member countries, but also to connect with Japan and China, and also representatives from Australia and India will be at the summit as well. And there are some important issues on the agenda for ASEAN in itself. The civil war in Myanmar, which has been continuing now for the past 3 years, is going to be a top agenda item for the ASEAN. So that is certainly something that's good for the Korean government to be plugged into. And it's also possible that some other major geopolitical issues like the conflict between Israel and Palestine might also come up. Although Southeast Asian countries have not been as heavily affected by that, it's still an area of concern. So for South Korea to be at the table at this, it's very important.
Well, like our Kim Do-yeon reported, South Korea is also expected to establish a comprehensive strategic partnership with ASEAN at the Korea ASEAN Summit. Now, how will this highest level of partnership be a win-win situation or upgrade for both sides?
Well, Korea's been engaged with ASEAN for 35 years now, so of course this takes it to the next level. And I think one country after another, external countries that have a lot of stakes in Southeast Asia, are signing these kinds of strategic partnerships. In some ways, it confirms what's already in place, but it also, I think, helps set the stage for further economic and technological collaboration and exchanges between South Korea and the member countries. So any step closer to a multilateral organization such as ASEAN is certainly a win for Korea, any other neighboring country in East Asia as well.
Right, it'll secure more cooperation across various sectors for the next 3 decades, who knows. And President Yoon is also expected to hold his first face-to-face meeting with a new Japanese Prime Minister Shigeru Ishiba in Laos as well. Now, how important is a meetup? I mean, how do you think the meeting will go this time?
Well, I think this is extremely important, Tommy. Of course, this is a change at the helm of the Japanese government. Yoon's diplomacy with Japan and also by extension with the United States with the recent trilateral summit in Camp David with the President Biden, of course, last year. This is all center really to President Yoon's strategy to try to bring the countries of the democracies anyway of Northeast Asia closer with the United States. And I think there's also a window of opportunity here as well, because Ishiba, more so than his predecessor Fumio Kishida in the past, has called for some interesting measures, some of which may not go very far. Ishiba has called for an Asian version of NATO in the aftermath of Russia's invasion of Ukraine. Washington has pretty much put a damper on that kind of talk for the time being. But at the same time, on historical issues between Japan and South Korea, this is also interesting because in the past, Ishiba has said that Japan should reckon more fully with its past war crimes. He actually spoke out on this in 2019 after relations between Japan and South Korea had hit a low point. And he's criticized in the past various aspects of Japan's entry into World War II, suggesting why did Japan get into a war that it couldn't win at that time. So in some ways, he may be more accommodating than Kishida was. Kishida often expressed with Yoon a lot of personal emotion about the historical difficulties between South Korea and Japan, but Yoon didn't press Kishida very hard for more. And this might, if Yoon is willing, it might be a good time for him to, we don't want to offer him advice necessarily, but it seems like Ishiba might be more receptive to getting to somebody who would be getting more pressure from the South Korean government. So I think if the Korean government doesn't apply more pressure in this case, it's probably missing an opportunity. Now, Ishiba has his own constituencies in Japan that he has to deal with, and prime ministers in Japan come and go, so we really don't know how long he'll be in office, but there could be a window of opportunity here. I'd say nobody should get their hopes up necessarily who's concerned about these issues. But it seems like the country could get further with him than with his predecessor. We'll have to see.
Alrighty, Professor Sharo, thank you so much for your insight this morning. We appreciate it.
Thank you for having me, Dami. Take care.
You too. South Korea has secured a seat on the UN Human Rights Council for the 2025 to 2027 term. Now, Seoul says it'll actively participate in international discussions, including North Korean human rights. Our Kim Jong-seo reports.
South Korea was elected as a member of the UN Human Rights Council in an election held in New York on Wednesday local time alongside several other countries.
The following 18 states have thus been elected members of the Human Rights Council: Republic of Korea, Spain, Switzerland, Thailand.
This is the 6th time that South Korea will serve as a member since the council was established in 2006. It was among 6 nations that competed for the vacancies in the Asia-Pacific region, along with Thailand, Saudi Arabia, Qatar, Cyprus, and the Marshall Islands, with Saudi Arabia the only candidate not elected. South Korea got 161 votes out of 190 voting countries. Wednesday's election means South Korea will simultaneously serve on 3 of the UN's major bodies next year: the Security Council, the Economic and Social Council, and the Human Rights Council. The Foreign Ministry in Seoul released a statement on Thursday saying that the government will actively participate in international discussions on major human rights issues, including North Korean human rights. The ministry emphasized the country's commitment to universal values and its diplomatic efforts to promote human rights globally. South Korea's 3-year term begins on January 5th, 2025. 김정실, 아리랑 뉴스.
U.S. President Joe Biden and Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu held phone talks on Wednesday to discuss ways to resolve the current situation in the Middle East. According to the White House, U.S. Vice President Kamala Harris also took part in the talks, where the three discussed Israel's current conflict with Iran, Hezbollah, and Hamas. During the call, Biden reaffirmed the U.S.'s ironclad commitment to Israel's defense, while condemning Iran's missile attack on Israel last week. Biden also stressed the need for a diplomatic agreement to ensure that all Lebanese and Israeli civilians in the border area can safely return home. Now, Wednesday's talks marked the first phone call between the two leaders in nearly 2 months. This year's Nobel Prize in Chemistry went to 3 scientists who used artificial intelligence to decode and design proteins, the building blocks of life. And their discovery now holds the potential to transform how new drugs are made. Our Lee Seung-jae reports.
The 2024 Nobel Prize in Chemistry was awarded to 3 scientists who used artificial intelligence to decode and design proteins, the building blocks of life.
The Royal Swedish Academy of Sciences has today decided to award the 2024 Nobel Prize in Chemistry with 1/2 to David Baker, University of Washington, USA, for computational protein design, and the other half jointly to Demis Hassabis and John Jumper, Google DeepMind, United Kingdom, for protein structure prediction.
According to the chair of the Nobel Committee for Chemistry, Heiner Linke, the award recognizes research that discovered a grand challenge in chemistry, and in particular in biochemistry. For decades, scientists have worked to efficiently design new proteins. Baker created a computer program called Rosetta, which analyzes information about existing proteins to build new proteins that don't exist in nature. Through this, any type of protein can be built using the technology, potentially creating treatments for diseases that are currently deemed incurable. Meanwhile, Hassabis and Jumper created an AI model that predicts the structure of 200 million proteins that researchers have identified so far, making it possible to predict the complex structure of the proteins. The scientists from Google DeepMind UK will further provide a deeper database for Baker in creating new proteins. It also marks the second time this year that scientists linked with AI technology have been able to win a Nobel Prize, as Geoffrey Hinton and John Hopfield earlier this week won the Nobel Prize in Physics for their pioneering work in creating the foundations of modern AI. Lee Seung-jae, Arirang News.
Now, let's take a look at the stories from around the world with our Kim Xiang. Good morning, Xiang.
Good morning, Dami.
So let's begin today with Hurricane Milton that's about to make a landfall in the U.S. What's the latest?
Yes, Dami. So Hurricane Milton is close to the southeastern coast of the U.S., with the storm only about 70 kilometers away from the coast of Sarasota, Florida, as of 7 p.m. on Wednesday local time. While the U.S. National Hurricane Center said Milton's strength is likely to fluctuate, the hurricane remains a powerful Category 3 storm, downgraded from Category 5 on Monday, with sustained wind speeds of around 200 kilometers per hour. Now, forecasters also say it's yet difficult to pinpoint where Hurricane Milton's center will make landfall. saying that the entire Tampa Bay region is in grave danger, with storm surges as high as 4 meters expected across Florida's Gulf Coast. Now, according to poweroutage.us, more than 262,000 customers are without power in Florida already, with tens of thousands of customers also affected in North Carolina and Georgia. At least 7 tornadoes have been reported, and 133 tornado warnings linked to Hurricane Milton have been issued for Florida. Now, despite Milton being downgraded to a Category 3 storm, U.S. President Joe Biden warned of the hurricane's destructive power and vowed to provide support for as long as it takes to rescue, recover and rebuild. One of India's most prominent business leaders, Ratan Tata, the former chairman of Tata Group, has died aged 86, according to a statement by the group on Wednesday. Reuters reported that Tata had been undergoing intensive care in a Mumbai hospital when he passed away. He led the Tata Group, a conglomerate of more than 100 companies and 660,000 employees, for over 20 years as chairman, after being appointed in 1991 as a successor to his relative J.R.D. Tata, despite widespread criticisms of nepotism. After studying architecture at Cornell University, he returned to India in 1962, where he began working for the group founded by his great-grandfather. Since Ratan Tata's takeover, the group soared into a global firm after purchasing British tea company Tetley in 2000, Anglo-Dutch steelmaker Corus in 2007, and British luxury auto brands Jaguar and Land Rover in 2008. Now, social media platform X was allowed to resume service in Brazil on Tuesday after the country's Supreme Court granted permission. X had been blocked in Brazil since late August after its owner, Elon Musk, publicly refused to comply with local court orders regarding moderation of hate speech and failed to name a legal representative in the country, as is required by law. Musk had denounced the court order as censorship and called Brazil's Supreme Court Justice Alexandre de Moraes a dictator. The platform has since named a local representative, paid fines totaling $5.1 million, and blocked accounts listed by the Brazilian court, which the country's communications minister called a victory for the country. Lastly, 2 giant panda cubs born 6 weeks ago at a Berlin zoo opened their eyes for the first time over the weekend. A video released on Wednesday by Zoo Berlin showed the newborn pandas reacting curiously to their surroundings, while the zoo's director said the healthy cubs now weigh over 2 kilograms. The panda twins born on August 22nd are the second twins born to the mother panda, Meng Meng, following Meng Meng's first twins born in 2019. Zoo Berlin's director said the 2 panda cubs will be shown to the public for the first time next week.
Many are waiting for the autumn foliage now, but due to the higher than average summer temperatures, the dates will be later than usual this year, but we are getting there. And temperatures look typical for an early autumn day with wide gaps in readings. Inner regions in Gyeongsang-do provinces could see wider gaps between lows and highs today, so please do dress accordingly by dressing in layers. Meanwhile, western regions are forecast to see rain today. It's not going to rain much, but there could be thunderstorms. And parts of Jeju, however, could see up to 30 millimeters of rainfall before turning brighter in the late afternoon. Then highs in Seoul and Daejeon will be at 22 degrees, Gwangju topping out at 23 degrees Celsius. Eastern parts of Korea will be under fairly sunny skies with decent air quality expected nationwide. Well, fine autumn weather is in the forecast from tomorrow under clear skies, with afternoon temperatures staying higher than seasonal norms. Well, that's Korea for you, and here's a look at the international weather conditions.
We thank you for watching New Day at Arirang. Arirang News will be back at 5 p.m. Korea time.